with the ascendant in Gemini and Mercury in Scorpio, the sixth house, separating from a conjunction with Mars, and the midheaven in the 10th house in Pisces, ruled by Jupiter, that's in the 12th house. This episode is basically more like the essence of all of this, the essence of what's going on in the world now, and where is it leading to, and why is this happening, and what can we learn from it that if we implement, we perhaps get to the core of the conflict on both spiritual, political, and a very pragmatic point. And so, just as the title says, every person deserves land. When I say land, I mean, of course, the infrastructure, I mean house, I mean agriculture or cattle. Okay, I mean what that entails. And the safety in the land. Okay, so of course, I mean the people, when every person deserves land, I mean that in the very holistic sense of it. And I don't mean by nationality, I mean by person. Okay, this is really the essence of what we are seeing right now in the world. Because we are seeing all kinds of various types of arguments on land. It began with, with the stay-home lockdowns of COVID, and later the threat of climate lockdowns by the daughter of Klaus Schwab. And it continued with arguments on land that seemed like a war, like Ukraine and Russia. But then we had the farmers in Netherlands not being able to grow crops and cattle on their own land. And then this reminds us that it began way earlier with us not being able to collect rainwater, both in Israel, and I did not know it, but apparently it is also in the United States. And farmers in the US having limitations to watering their crops. This is already happening. And it continued with a regional conflict, the good old Israel-Palestine. But what the argument is around land, and of course in between we had Maui, which was a supposed natural disaster. There were more things that were not broadcasted. I saw something to do with that were 500 people dead, and I did not see like more. But what's in common is that by all of these excuses, from apartheid to climate change, cow's farts, which was basically the excuse for disabling farmers from growing cattle, but also crops, also agriculture. This is basically dismantling the ability to own land. In various excuses, so Israel is doing a genocide, and on the 7th of October there was a Shoah in Israel, and the cows fart carbon in Netherlands, and there was national disaster to which the response was to besiege Maui, basically disconnected from the world. And we see, and the Gazan people being evacuated to Mount Sinai, which no Israel would conceive of as that's their favorite retreat. and Egypt's claiming that they would not let people in, or basically perform an active genocide if somebody tries to cross the border. And all of that seemed, oh my God, how cruel is the world? But there is something even deeper, which is Agenda 2030. And what it means, what this 15-minute city, and I saw this in Tel Aviv. There was a project, I think it was by Candice, the 15-minute city, that you need a card to enter the building and there is security. If you don't have such a card, then you cannot enter your own apartment, which you purchased quite some money. And Tel Aviv is very big real estate. But then there were different, and it looked very fancy, okay? It looked like this urban center, because that's how it's marketed. But if you, they were just building the place, and even though everything was all in construction, these were bed entrance from one street to the other. And all I wanted to do was to go through the park. If I would have a dog, I would walk the doggy, I would go through the park. You could not walk the doggy, you had to walk around for even more than a kilometer instead of just walking straight. And this does not make any sense. But I remember thinking that if people are like celebrities or something like this, they have to tell the security to go from the bathroom to the kitchen because they are such closely secured. And so I figured we talk about of movement, especially after the lockdowns, and the people that we are talking to are having to secure themselves so much so that they're very used to having their freedom of movement limited. But this is a very posh, okay, very 15-minute city marketing, which doesn't leave you too much privacy. And however nice these supposed ghettos look like, it seems like the argument that, oh, can the cashier that works in the 7-Eleven live in the 15-minute city, or can it not? But when we understand that these 15-minute cities become more and more like ghettos, because if you're going to have a social credit score and a digital ID to buy groceries, then we understand we're in a bit of a problem, because if you do something or say something that is not in alignment with the regime, you basically can't buy food. And when things are automated, then you can't steal food like you used to be able to. You have to really commit a crime, and you have to really be armed, and you have to really siege a supermarket if you want bread, and you happen to not desire to have digital ID or a part of the social credit score system. Then it's problems. So just today, and I'm following 2 users on Twitter that are in between houses, and somebody used his card. And so he was told to go because he or they were told to go because they were told they were making problems, while in fact they paid for the card with money that was donated to them, and somebody else used it, and that somebody else used it could have shelter while they had to be in the street and they were told they're making problems, okay? This thing could very well happen with people entering their own house in a 15-minute city. And you understand that with AI and deepfake, identity is something of the past. So while the technology of deepfake is becoming more and more prevalent, at the same time, paradoxically, the requirement to identify yourself before you do something becomes more and more inherent, okay? To enter a house, to exit your house, to buy food in the supermarket, okay? To move around, and so 15-minute cities